this is, as I said last week, my follow-up to my part 1 interview with Chrisophe Boelinger that went really long. I was sleep deprived, and he was all over the place with so many awesome things to talk about. And I had to just kind of shepherd along to the different conversation topics that I knew that we both wanted to hit. And as a product, I couldn't really get into really nuanced conversation about any one of these elements. I mean, I'm really happy with the interview as it came out, but I feel like there could be a single episode on each of the 12 different topics that are really big, weighty topics that we end up talking about, from the history of Ludically to Archipelago and the controversy surrounding that, to the creation of Archipelago as a really monumental game, and then some of the projects in the future, like this whole website thing that we get into. It's worth listening to. It's really interesting. I do want to say that regarding the controversy surrounding Archipelago that I mentioned, there's a lot more room for nuanced discussion here. And while I don't agree with everything that Christophe says and some of his reflections about things, I really wanted to just get an earnest response from him about these topics. And I think he really went out of his way to be candid, to be forthright, and to give that earnest response. And I think that's awesome that he was willing to do just that. Now, do I think that if Archipelago came out again, that I would have some much needed input on how to maybe reflect on some of the things that could be done a little bit better? Of course. And maybe that's a whole episode in and of itself that I'll have Christophe on for another day. So for now, here is the conclusion to my conversation with Chrisophe Boelinger, designer of Archipelago, Earth Reborn, Dungeon Twister, and Living Planet. Archipelago, it's been criticized by some people as being ignorant or even endorsing some negative aspects of colonialism. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I agree that to some extent, some of the iconography can come off as insensitive, especially by today's standards in the United States. But I actually have said many times, both on this podcast as well as some of the videos that I've done, that I really admire that Archipelago is one of the few games that I've played that actually attempts to comment on the ethics and outcomes of colonialism through some of the mechanics where working collaboratively with the indigenous population results in a more harmonious archipelago, whereas exploiting the indigenous population may be something that's beneficial for the player themselves, but brings the whole balance of the archipelago onto the brink of collapse, which is a fail state for all players. So let's kind of put it to a rest here. Like, when you were designing this game, how aware were you that it might be viewed as a controversial game? And were you actually trying to comment on something or say something with the game?
When I designed the game, first you have to know, and that's bad, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm somebody that is totally transparent, so I don't see why I should change now and keep things for myself. You have to know that for the basic game box for Archipelago, I did zero historical research. Zero. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm not an historian. I played quite some few war games, so I know some parts and things. I studied history at classes like everybody else in France. It was one of my most hated field or class, because you had to learn by heart all the dates, and I'm a logical person, and it's bothering me to learn by heart the dates. So the way they were teaching us history was not pushing me to like it. So anyway, I did zero research for Archipelago. The idea came when I wanted to do a game about, triple X or 4X, I don't know, there's no combat. So triple X, I would say, where you explore, expand, and etc. I was playing Civilization 5 at that time. I played only the tutorial and half of the game. And the second game, when I started it, I saw that you could generate a planet the size you want and decide of the level of water and all. And strangely, I decided to do like a paradise planet, so a huge planet and with as much water as possible. So I ended up playing Civilization 5 from Sid Meier's on my PC with a planet full of islands. And I never finished this game because it was too long, and I never play video games almost. I just did the tutorial, and I loved this game, and I just went on. And it's at that time that I started and have the idea of doing Archipelago. So that's I think Civilization 5, this Archipelago planet I created like that, is the starting point for the idea of doing such a game. Then, no historical research. And when I designed the game, I did everything from my knowledge of what they taught me at school, my interpretation of it, and most of it, what I am as a person in my heart. The first thing I am, every time, you have to know that I'm a very sensitive person. If I go to see a Disney movie, there's 99% chance that I will cry in it at some point.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
No matter what Disney, what cartoon it is, any cartoon, 95% of the cartoon I'm going to watch, I'm going to cry at some point. I'm a person who has been always touched by all the movies and the stories about slavery and the black people along. I've been close to black people when I was dancing, rapping, all that when I was in the US. I was thinking when I was a kid that, why am I not black? I was even asking my mom, what did you give into my blood that makes me so much into music, dancing, rapping, all that, putting the hat reverse or what? I want to be black. I don't want to be white. So first thing to know is that my wife, she's black. She's Brazilian. She's black. And I'm very happy and proud to be with a black woman. If I'm all like that, why would I point something about pushing racism and something like that? No. So Archipelago, on the morale that there's inside the game, it's totally what you just said. My idea was, hey, we did bad things when we were colonial people, the white people in the past, the Europeans or what, with the triangle commerce, when they were taking slaves in Africa, bringing them in the US or South or North, and then coming back with the goods and selling them again and starting again. I remember that. That's one of the only part I remember from the history class we had, the commerce triangulaire, triangle trading, they call that, I guess. And why I'm thinking just now, why do I remember almost only this part? Not only, but this one of the part that marked me the most, that struck me the most. Because it's the most shocking, because I'm for the black. I don't want the slavery, the whole shit and all. I don't want that. So I was trying to put into Archipelago, as you said, the thing that, what if we did it? Okay, we couldn't prevent discovering the world. We were in advance. We had the ships and all. We had to go. We had to explore. It's in human blood. There was no way we could go against that. But once again, what killed the whole thing? It's the money. We did bad things to get rich, to get money and all that. What if we would have gone there and just shared our scientific advancement, our knowledge or whatever with them, take from them also what is nice, their culture, mix all that, be nice with them, share with them, and evolve together in a new civilization that would be 50% European, 50% from the island. And that will be so beautiful. And then they would not reject us because they would like us, because we will teach them things, because we would marry with them. They will be crossed in all the directions and babies with various colors or whatever. And that's why there's the action doing babies and hiring people and all that. And if we do bad things, then they don't like us and they turn against us. And I don't need a history lesson or whatever for that. It's just facts. If you're bad with people, they're going to turn bad on you. If you're nice with them, really nice, I don't see why they would turn bad on you and reject you. So that was really the main idea to bring it in there. Why the black people is black? Well, in every game, when there's something bad, dangerous or whatever, generally the darkness represented. It's black that represent the guild or the sect of darkness or the whatever. We're not going to put them white or pink or purple. Usually it's red or black, because red is blood, is danger, it's attention, it's all that, and you cannot change that. And black is darkness. Nobody likes to be in the darkness. Darkness is associated kind of with something bad happening. Maybe not the black people like they all think. So that's why I put the black. And the face of the guy who's sticking out his tongue, this is maybe the only historical research we did, kind of, when we did the artwork. It's the artist who proposed that, and he was saying he's been looking, he's the head of the Maori or whatever, the race that was living in South America, or in the island, or in the Guadeloupe, And when they're mad at you and getting violent and all, they would do this face to you and do with the fingers around their neck, showing that they're going to cut your head and stick it on a piece of wood. So, because we don't like icons like so Euro-German style, so we choose to have as an icon a drawing, and the drawing of the most scary indigenous person that was living on those islands, when they were really scaring the settlers because they were about to cut their head, and that was legitimate because they did too many bad things or whatever. So I'm sorry that all that got taken bad.
So when you read these comments, because I mean, I would say that overwhelmingly people love Archipelago. Like the people who like it love it, and most of the reaction to the game is focused on it as a game design, though occasionally these comments do come up on Board Game Geek, on Reddit, in different circles. So I'm sure that you've been exposed to it to a degree. When you read them, what's your reaction? Do you feel like if you were making Archipelago all over again today, would you do anything different, or do you feel like, no, I stand by exactly what we did and I wouldn't change a thing?
I would change the color of the meeples, as I said, because this is nothing.
Right.
I should have thought about that. White is the white guy, black is the black guy. Okay, so if they cannot see further from that, okay, I would change the color of the meeple. I wouldn't change anything in the game because it functions perfectly. And the head of the guys that Vincent Boelinger drew, I should search again. I would search again on the internet and see those. I think it was the warrior Maori, or I don't remember exactly which race was doing that. But see if historically they were really, they were doing like that, and if so, that represents the rebellion. We could change this thing, but that's it. What makes me, the reaction for me is more that, honestly, it just saddens me because people got me totally opposite of what I wanted to bring, and that's the saddest thing, because damn, how can they get totally opposite to what I was trying to bring in this game? How can they think? And the first argument I want to put out, hey, my wife is black. I don't know. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. Say, hey, damn, guys, go to my Facebook page and look my life. Or I always thought since I was a kid that the black people around the planet will get their revenge on what the human race did to them in the past, but they would get it through music. That would be their best way of getting it. And anyway, that's what they do. The rapping, I saw the start of it. Everybody was mocking it or looking at it like with a strange eye. What is this thing? And nowadays, I think the artist that makes the most money in the world are the rappers. Mm-hmm. And the whole rapping industry and business, the videos and all that, okay, they show their gold chain and all thing all the time. Okay, it's the typical dollar American way or whatever that spreads all around the world. And now in France also they're acting like that. But kind of in a way, since the 70s, where it all started with jazz and funk and all that, the blues and all, and it came up a lot, and they proved, whether in sports, whether in music, whether in some art, that it's their way of taking their revenge, and it's through music more than through weapons or war or revenge or rebellion like it is in Archipelago. So I'm happy with that.
Man, I could just sit here and talk about Archipelago. Like I could fill up an entire podcast all about Archipelago, the mechanics, the themes, the artwork, the history of creating it. But there are two things that I want to get to, and that are upcoming items from you. One is actually a game, and that's Living Planet, and the other is this recent announcement that I heard you talking about regarding some voting that people can do associated with the games that you're creating. So let's start with Living Planet, and then we'll close out with that voting, because I think that's a really cool initiative that you're working towards. So with Living Planet, this is probably the game that I'm looking forward to. Well, there's several games that I'm looking forward to most in 2019, but this is definitely one of them. I mean, it's gorgeous, it's polished, it's about exploring a treacherous and terrifying planet, and from what I can tell, it seems kind of like the spiritual successor to Archipelago, which again is totally one of my top favorite games of all time. I just put it on my top 5 favorite games, which is on our website, so it's official. So obviously you're making pretty much the most amazing thing ever for me, but what about this game is really special to you? Because you seem like someone who just dives into these worlds. We've been talking about this. You become so incredibly passionate about something. So, like, why was this the thing that you just really, really latched onto and wanted to bring to the world?
I guess I'm just thinking, because we switched from what we were talking about Archipelago before, that maybe this one's going to be taken wrong again on the opposite side. Because once again, I realize there's a big moral story in this, because it's the planet that revenge and fights against his colonists. It's the planet this time. And the colonists are digging for resources. And the planet fights back through the cataclysm she sends all over the surface of its skin, I would say. So once again, this is what we do on Earth. We all know that Earth is not getting better. We're polluting, we're destructing the resources, the forest and all that. And the meteorology goes a little bit crazy those past years and all, and she's maybe starting to show hints of fighting back on us. So maybe I'm thinking that once again, I'm going to be taken bad on this one. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, the thing is that this game came out once again in Valmenier, so 2 or 3 years after Archipelago. It's first a science fiction story that I wrote, or that I had in mind, and that I wrote as a small novel that takes like 2 or 3 pages. And then I set myself to create the game that would respect totally this story. The base of the story is what you read in the first page, is nicely put and all, but there's some little novelties, new ideas in it, but nothing really amazingly new, I would say, or super innovative. It's kind of like, I would say, Wall-E, because we abandoned Earth, destroyed everything, and we're drifting into space until we find a planet we could habit.
Yep.
This is the base story. But the second part of the story that will be at the end of the rules, this one really contains a twist and something totally new that I've never read or saw nowhere else, even comics or whatever, or in movies. And this second part is not told right now on the net. People would play the game. I suggest they read it after their game, and they will get slapped. Yeah, I think they will get real surprised about, oh, this is really what happens after? Okay, that we didn't expect, I think. So basically, it's an exploration game like Archipelago. This is not a semi-cooperative or cooperative game. Every player plays his own corporation, and they find out a planet that has some resources for the first time in millennia after drifting into space. So we all come on this planet to try to exploit the planet and take the resources and make as much money as possible. So it's a really bad, money corporation thing where we're here to not destroy, but suck all the resources in the planet, dig like mosquito taking the blood out of it, and the planet is the real danger, because the more we explore the planet, the more there's going to be cataclysm here and there, tornadoes, geysers, and earthquakes, and those cataclysms are triggered depending on the dice that we don't roll, that we play with cards, and that they fix the value of the dice. So it's a game in which you should be more aware and pay attention to the planet itself than the actions of the other players and their scoring. And what I realized, and that was the objective, is that the more players are aware and pay attention to the planet, the more they have chances of winning. The people who play this game like they play other very calculating or Euro-type games where you have to calculate any little gain point here and there, and they have only this to do, I would say. The player who plays like that, they forget about the planet. At some point in the game, they get slapped in the face, and they feel what it is to be hit by a cataclysm. So the difficult part in the game was to balance how rough the planet will be on you. If it was too rough, it was hard to expand in the game. If it was too easy, then you were not scared of the planet, and the story, the objective, the whole thing in the game was pointless.
This is interesting because you went to Kickstarter for this. Was this the first time that you guys have Kickstarted a game? It's
not Ludically who Kickstarted it. I signed this game. I did it. I think the first prototype was like 3 years ago or something like that. And in Cannes, in the Cannes Gaming Festival, 2 booths next to us, there was a guy who was working there with a friend, and this guy is the dentist of my auntie. And my auntie, he knew me because my auntie was talking to him. They must have talked, and she discovered that he was into game or whatever. And this guy came to my house 2 evenings to try some prototypes because he was supposed to do an association with Lumberjack. Lumberjack is a French publisher that was just starting at that time. Now they're like 2 years old. And he was the first one to try Living Planet. I didn't show it to any publishers, not even to my partner, Jean-Charles, who was already started to think about, getting his retirement. So the game came to Paris, went up to Paris through this guy and reached Lumberjack, was the original publisher of Living Planet. And then Lumberjack took it. I did some adjustments on the game. I tuned it some more again because some things were not pleasing us. And then he was supposed to put it out the normal way. But Asmodee for France and the distribution system was saying, oh, it's a big game again and all. They were taking like only 1,000 copies or whatever. They were predicting 1,000 copies sold. And with that, there was no point for him putting out the game. That's what some people will criticize of what Kickstarter, they have to understand. That this publisher cannot put up front more than that. I signed with him. He was supposed to put out with Asmodee. But when the distribution systems now starts telling you there's too many games coming out, we don't want to take the games, or we don't want no more than this, the guy cannot print just 1,000. He loses money on it, for sure, right from the start. So that's when he told me, I would like to do a Kickstarter. Do you mind? I said, no, if you have no other solution, go and do a Kickstarter. So Lumberjack did a Kickstarter that they started in December last year, so a year ago, and I was not part of it. Ludically was not part of it. I was just the designer that provided my game as an author, a designer to a publisher. They did the Kickstarter. I got involved a little bit more from the last days of the campaign because I really wanted Ismael to draw the hexagons. He was the one who drew the hexagons of Archipelago, and I didn't like the hexagons that he had that are on pictures, as a matter of fact, still on pictures on the Kickstarter. And I was telling him, you should have not started the Kickstarter with those type of artwork. They're two colors, they're dark, they don't make us want to explore. I don't want to discover this planet, kind of. So we had kind of some arguments about that and all, but in the end, in the middle of the campaign, he decided to hire Ismael, and Ismael started to draw some hexagons live during the campaign. So that's what happened about that. And then my duo, bassist and the drummer, I was the drummer and Ismael is the bassist. I love to work with Ismael because it's really like in music. The game looks exactly like I would like to see it. He's totally in synchronization with me. He listens. He's very good. So anyway, this was a good thing. And then what happened is that with all the things that all the expansions and everything that all the players have triggered for the campaign, it became really huge. If you look at it, and me looking at it as a designer, the gaming material, the game design, the rules, number of pages, weight, number of characters, whatever, however you want to see it, it's like more than twice or 3 times, I would say between 2 and 3 times the amount that there is in the Archipelago. And we developed with Jean-Charles Archipelago with Ludically, and I know exactly how long time it took us to put all our hearts and the best we could put into it in terms of development, rules checking, examples, hard work, the jobs, everything. And Lumberjack, he realized when we were starting really advancing and talking all that was a lot of work that would take him a long time, and that he had to drop out or abandon the other projects, other games he had, if he wanted to put out Living Planet in the good and the right way, which is what I wanted also. And so at some point, he realized that it was a too big fish for him, and he'd rather go on with all the small games and all that. And that's when Hicham, the exact time when Jean-Charles was quitting Ludically, and my new partner Hicham, was coming in. So that's when we started to have discussion with Lumberjack, and I started to ask Hicham if he was okay, even though it was not in the plan initially, that Ludically finishes the second half of the Kickstarter and takes on from after the Kickstarter and develops, produces, and does all the games and provides it to the gamers. And it went out this way. Isham and Lumberjack, they got together, they did the contracts and the whole thing that I hate to see and I don't want to hear about, kind of. It's not my thing. I'm able to do, but it's just distracting me from all the rest, and it's not good. So anyway, they did all that, and so Ludically became the publisher of the game since, I don't know, June or April or May, something like that of 2018.
And when is that set to deliver?
The Lumberjack initially announced the game for September of 2018, but as I said, and that's when I was telling him, if you put it out at that date, it's so big, there's so much work and all, there's going to be a FAQ huge, and I hate that. And all the things there's going to be mistakes, it's for sure. So there was right from the start almost, like a month or two after, when the Kickstarter campaign ended and they put down all the things, the date he announced was unrealistic to have something that is solid, that's for sure. So that's one first thing. So then we postponed and we thought we could deliver it if we were good before Christmas. That was the idea. That's what I wanted, at least. But then, because we had the change of my partner and, all the change of type of company, the things, there was many things at the same time. And me, I don't want to have a game out on time, but, with bugs in it. I'd rather have it late, but perfect, or as perfect as I think we can do. Even though we can never be perfect, okay? So now we're talking about March probably of this year, around that.
You were talking about how it's money that ruins everything earlier. My favorite game at the moment, if push came to shove, is probably Terraforming Mars. But one of the things that I've criticized the game for the most is that it's kind of a bummer to me that the game ends up being about exploiting a planet entirely for economic gain at the end. Like the greatest scientific endeavor of the human race of colonizing an entire other planet, and it boils down to my corporation is better than your corporation. That feels like there should be some commentary in there that Terraforming Mars is lacking. And this seems like it captures some of those elements, but at the same time, it has that delightful approach that you brought to Archipelago and have brought to so many other games. I think this is just going to be such an exciting game.
Thank you. We can talk quickly. I can make quickly what are the similarities with Archipelago. The exploration is close, although the drawing, you draw as many hexagons as the value of your dice, but placing and expanding the map is the same. It looks the same because you have carton buildings that you place on the hexagons and you have meeples. Voilà. Apart from those things, all the rest is different from Archipelago. There's the stock market, the way it functions. The game has like two things in one. It's like a double game. You can go totally for the stock market and trying to play on the stock market like a real person playing with the bourse stock market, or you can explore and take risk with the cataclysm and all, but you cannot do only one of them. You have to manage between the two. Archipelago doesn't have this aspect. The main difference that Archipelago has the semi-cooperative thing, you can all lose against the game. In this one, we cannot lose against the game. And that's it. And the cherry on top that was not even in the Kickstarter and everywhere, and that's what I like the best. And right now, because I was playtesting all the different parts, I had to try this expansion and this one alone and this scenario alone and this and that. But if I listen to myself today, I only want to play one thing, is the scenario auto-generating system that will be provided with it, with the Kickstarter, and that probably be as an expansion in the shops. I don't know after, but it generates millions and millions of different planets with different rules, with different interactions with the players, with different composition of the planet. And my wife, that's what's so funny, she played the first games of Our Living Planet at the very beginning 3 years ago. She played all the way until I started to work with Lumberjack. After I got so much into it that, sometimes your wife, when she sees that you're so much into something, she steps away from it because probably she's like you are too good in that now, and she was away from it for too long. And if she comes back into it, you're going to beat her bad or whatever. So she went away from it. And then those past month we were supposed to finish the last files and all, I was telling her, hey, I cannot play anything else via now. We have to play that. If you want to play, it's that and nothing else. So she went back into it, kind of like forced. But she went directly to the scenario auto-generating system where we mixed all the expansions, the things and all. And she had a blast. She was like rediscovering Living Planet. It's excellent like that. I want to do another one. So she want to play only now the scenario generating system, because one of the biggest pleasure of this mode of play is generating the planet at the beginning. It's very exciting. We don't know what we're going to have. We don't know. We all decide separately what we're going to have in it and all. So if we play 4-player, we're both responsible of 25% of what we have in the scenario. But still, every game is like radically, totally different, nothing to do with each other. And the last 5 or 6 games that she played with me on this game was with the scenario generating system. And we had a blast every time. And it was funny to see that she was coming back to it because of this last element that I was obsessed with. I was obsessed with around the end of the campaign, like the last day of the campaign, when I saw everything that they triggered, all the expansions, all the new stretch goals and whatever. I was like, there's so many things. You can do a scenario generating system. I'm sure it's possible. Your sandbox is big. You can do a very good one. And it's the third one. I did one for Freeborn. That was the first one. And that for example, in Spain, they are a huge fan of Freeborn. Probably the biggest in the world now is Spain. Not in numbers, maybe, but the biggest fan they are there. And because one guy is the only one in the world who did a video of how SAGS is played, and in Spanish. So they saw the blast that this generating system is. Most of the people, they went through the first scenarios, and because they don't have always the same opponents or what, they don't go all the way to the end. If you are a geek player, you should go directly, skip all the scenarios, go to the SAGS directly. If you have a night to spend with a big guy and you're motivated, you go there. You don't do all the scenario. And so the second one is in War of Time. We were talking about this game before, but it's an unknown game that I've never shown so far and has a very good SAGS system, also totally different. And the third one I did was in Living Planet. And it seems to me like this is my new challenge now. Every time there's a game with sufficient elements to do it, I'm going to push myself to find a way to do a scenario generating system, because this is what I like the best. I don't want to design the scenarios anymore. It's not that it's boring, but I know what to expect because I designed it. I want the game to create different scenarios for me every time. So even when I play test, I'm surprised, like if it was taken from a book or somebody created it, and I'm, wow, what's happening here? I have to adapt. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand. That's insane. Like I could spend an entire podcast just talking about that and the trials and tribulations having to do with coming up with a system that creates new systems, especially with the kind of breadth of rule sets that need to be accommodated for in that, and to make sure that it doesn't go off the rails and that it's still the consistent experience of what you want out of the game in general, while still being a completely fresh and new thing. Like I cannot wait to get my hands on it now more than ever, because you just explained this.
That's what sometimes the players don't understand. If I look at it backwards now, if I didn't design the SAGS, we probably could have delivered the games to them now. Now, they would receive it now, for sure. This SAGS was so, I thought initially it was just a nice present to offer, a nice idea to give to them. But then you look at the number of pages that the SAGS requires to describe all the icons I've been using on the charts and all. I think it's like 16 pages, a rule book by itself. So that's what I'm saying. If I didn't do that, they would have it today. But I did that. Okay, I think it needed that. I wanted that. Well, if it's bad, okay, they can come back to me. But if it's very good, they have to tell themselves that if they waited like 3 or 4 months or 6 months more was to get this thing. And for me in the game, this thing, the SAGS, is the best thing in the game. For me. So the way I see it so far, like I like to play the other scenarios or whatever, but this one is the top, the cherry on top.
We have been talking for a long time, and I wanted to get to that last one thing, which I think is indicative of who you are as a person. I think like it's a good summary for this conversation is that you want to innovate and just try new things, and you become obsessed with new things. And now you have a new system that you want to bring to the world. Instead of having a scenario generating in a game, you're going to create a system in which people can have some sort of agency in what next you and Ludically are working on. So what is this website and what is your intention with it?
So first, if people go on the Ludically's website, you'll realize that there's nothing a lot more. You can just pledge or buy Archipelago and pledge the Living Planet. So we shut down our website like 6 months ago or 4 months ago. It was outdated, old school and all that. But that is not the reason. The thing comes from natural situation, natural fact that I'm experiencing, and Ludically was experiencing for many years now, is that I create more games that Ludically right now, because we only 2 persons can develop and produce. So the prototypes started stacking in my closets. Some of them were going to other publishers, and now the big ones we keep, because Ludically is going to do only miniature games and big games, geek games, I would say, games with meeples or whatever, but not the family and the easy games. And even at that point, if we stick to only those games, I already have too much. And with Jean-Charles already in the past, when we were trying to do the schedule of the years or the month to come with Ludically, we knew the next one, but it was constantly changing, whether we were listening to me, because most of the time he would let me decide and let me free, kind of, or if we were looking at the sales, or if we were discussing about the emails we were receiving constantly from players asking new expansions for Dungeon Twister or Freeborn or things like that. And every month we will unschedule the next game and reschedule another one. And we had a total indecision. So the thing is that we are facing the fact that too much choice kills the choice. So then I was starting to think, if I listen to myself, the next game we want to produce is the one I just finished designing, but I'm starting to be so happy with it because it works so fine and we all have a blast with it. That's the one I want to see out now, because I would like to see how it looks good with real miniatures, not some takens from other games, with real artworks and all. But I'm thinking that this is not neutral. This is me. This is because it's just the last one. But somebody who comes, for him, the 6 games I have to put out on the table, they're all new to him. And probably the last one is not the one that he will like the best. So, me, I'm not the person that should decide. Isham, new partner in Ludically, he's been published tons of games. He has experience. Okay. But is he representative of the whole world? No, I don't think so. So he has a weight that we can give to him. Okay, me also, because I'm the one who knows the best games from inside since the beginning. Okay, but the players around the world are the one who can really tell which one of those 6 games is the one they would like to start first. So that was the idea. We're going to do a website with different tags, onglets, I don't know how you call it, different repertory. And each one of them, there will be videos showing a gameplay on a prototype at my home, probably. So not definitive material, but they would see exactly how the game evolves, because the rules won't change, or just slightly. I will explain the rules in English, in French, and for each of the games, show some artwork if we have been able to have a third artist drawing the first characters, cards, a few map elements, so we can show what it would look like, where we tend to go. And then there's a page where they can vote for each game, and also give a weight to the designer, which is me, to the publisher, Isham. From 1 to 100 will be the weight of our vote compared to the other players. And then let's say we open the website, I don't know, I'm going to say something stupid or what, maybe in June of this 2019, we're going to leave it open for like 3 months and say in September, we're going to close the vote, and the game that comes on top, this is the game now that gets out of the list, gets out of it. The page is still here, but it gets out of the vote, and this is the one we're going to develop and put out first. Whether it's a Kickstarter or normal edition or what, that doesn't matter. But this is the one we put all our energies, our money, our artists working on it. The rest, they remain in the vote for as long as they're not out of the list. And if I have a new game that I just designed that is even like 1 month old, that we played sufficiently, that I'm not ashamed to show and I'm sufficiently proud of showing it, then new repertory, new videos, new rules, a new game, and it can go up or down in the voting systems. When the game comes out that we were working on, then we stop the vote again, and the one that's on top, boom, gets developed, and then the line will go. And it's kind of like a race of seeing how many games you can put out compared to how many you can create. If the list gets bigger year after year, that means that I go faster than Hicham is going for the production. It's like a race between Hicham and me. If the list gets slower, that means that he's a better producer, kind of, because this is his part, then I am a designer. He goes faster. Or in the future, if things, because this is a capacity of production if we're only like 2 or 3. Maybe if things goes well, I don't know, at some point we will hire people and reach out, like we put out 1 game every 6 months. I don't know. This is not my objectives. I don't want to saturate the market. We don't want to put out things just to put them out. I don't like to see my games standing in the closet and taking the dust, for sure. But I also don't want to put out everything like being, like a producing machine. I want the things to come out nice, super beautiful, with solid rules, new mechanics, theme that is totally 100% here, and that's the main thing. Then if we can accelerate the rhythm by taking the right people, and we'll see, but we're not there yet. First thing is our Living Planet is delivered to the backers, like a month after it comes out in the shop. Then we are free of that, because that was our only deadline, because it was a Kickstarter initially. Things that, as we were saying before, we didn't want it to start, but we had to do with it. Once this is done, meanwhile, we're already starting to have developers working on the website. You won't see any games or whatever too much coming out before the website comes, and then we open the website as soon as, because I have like 24 videos to do. 6 games. 4 videos for each, one of explanation of the rules and one of gameplay in French or in English. That's 4 by 6, that's 24.
You got your work cut out for you, man, but you're putting power into the hands of players. Chrisophe, thank you so much for coming onto the Cardboard Herald. This has been an absolute pleasure, and like something that I've looked forward to doing since I really started doing this about 2 years ago, and this was an absolute highlight for me. So thank you so much for coming onto the show, Christophe.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
As always, the Cardboard Herald is a completely free service focused on spotlighting games, gamers, and game creators. You can find all of our podcasts, including the Cardboard Herald and TCbH reviews, on iTunes, Stitcher, and our website. For more recommendations and reviews, you can also head over to our YouTube channel. We do not pay to advertise the show, so please continue spreading the word, following, liking, rating, and doing all the social media things. It truly does help us out a ton. If you'd like to drop us a line and maybe have your listener mail read on air, find us on Twitter @Cardboard Herald, or send us an email to cardboardherald@gmail.com, or click the contact link on our page. Once again, thank you for listening. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald, and you keep on gaming.